Hey guys, welcome back to the Ask Muso podcast. Welcome back to the home abode. I have someone I've been very excited to have a chat with. A new addition to the overall music scene collective that I like to think I'm growing through this show, and someone who's got a lot of talent and is someone that you definitely want to make sure you've heard of by the end of this show. So, Will Clift, say g'day, mate, and kick things off.
Thanks, man. No, thanks for having me, and thanks for saying such nice things. I really appreciate it.
That's right. I feel like I'm an American like comedian host where they go, "Hey man, can you tell us what your credits are?" Like, I was watching it the other day, and it was with a guy, an Australian comedian, who went to the US for the first time, and he's like, "What are your credits?" And he's like, I did like a couple of TV spots on the ABC, and all these guys are like Netflix specials.
Yeah.
Just say I'm Australian. That'll do.
Yeah, very
just say I'm
fair.
Australian.
No, my favorite thing is like the podcast voice that just immediately switches on. You know, it's like snap,
I
ready
did
to go.
tell you before I even go. It's all smoke and mirrors.
He's a professional.
It's all smoke and mirrors. But how does it all kick off for you, man? Like, you start us off. Where does this all start for you? I know there's like an elephant in the room for anyone who knows you, that it was sort of rugby into R&B, but you tell me how it all sort of starts.
Yeah, so I kind of always balanced the both. Like all through my childhood, I was playing music and playing rugby. Moved down to Melbourne after high school. Studied music. Was playing rugby at the same time down there, training with the Rebels. COVID happened. Decided to give the rugby a red hot go. Was playing in Sydney for a year and really loved it, but then was just like, hey, if I want to do either of these properly, I've got to go 100% into one of the two, and decided to give music a red hot go, and here we are.
Okay, so why? Like, why that one? Because I used to play tennis for a bit, and then it just, for me, it just unashamedly just became that I was just much better at this. So it just path of least resistance. But was that what it was, or?
It was, I mean, I loved rugby, but it obviously, like any professional sport, is a huge commitment, but it was like all encapsulating. I had to move my life down to Sydney. You know, I was thinking about everything I was eating, training like, 6-7 times a week. And it was just not sustainable. And when I did the pros and cons for a career in music and a career in rugby, I liked the look of music a lot. It was a lot more flexible. You're not getting paid a huge amount at the sort of level I was playing rugby. There's more opportunity to travel with music. There's more longevity in music. The
longevity of the body. The body, like talking about maintaining the body, yes, and making sure you're in game form, but like just the body and those sorts of things long term.
Hopefully, no concussions in music. That's what.
You're doing it very wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Just drumming with the head.
Exactly. Yeah, but I was actually wondering if there was actually something that had come up and you're going, geez, the left knee's not doing as well as it could have been, or you managed to get out before that.
I was super lucky. I had a broken leg when I was maybe 14. And other than that, a few niggles. Like, my shoulders are not great, but my brother has had, by the time he was 20, he'd already had 2 shoulder reconstructions and a hip reconstruction.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I was so lucky. Like, and he's still playing. He's a professional rugby player, and he kept going.
Okay.
But I had 1 concussion in my last season, which was the only diagnosed concussion I've had. I'm sure there's been plenty more because my memory is terrible. But
you're parked out the front, yeah? Just so you know, you're parked out the front.
Yeah, no, I'll be looking for half an hour. So, No, I just, honestly, I did the pros and cons, and that's what was the final straw for me.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. And I like that as well. And was there always a sort of a backing at home for either side, or like a musical background or a really sport background? Were you a bit of a black sheep, or?
I don't want to call myself a black sheep because my parents are so supportive. Like, I'm really lucky I've got great parents, and no matter what I do, they support me. But I come from like a very strong rugby family. Like, my dad is the biggest rugby fanatic you've ever met. He knew all of the opposition team player names through high school. Like, he would research the other teams, if you know what I mean.
Oh, God. Yeah, wow.
He loves it. He was like ex-Australian military hooker. He played rugby himself. And so, yeah, like, and my brother obviously being a professional rugby player, like, we come from a big rugby background, and no one in my family, apart from my nana, is particularly musical. I kind of just fell into that and was lucky that I was supported with it. And yeah, here I am.
I just finished reading Rick Astley's book, and in that I uncovered that until he turned like 45, he never once stepped on stage and played what he loved. Sorry, not so much that he didn't enjoy the music he was playing. He didn't play what he grew up to. He didn't play what he listened to. He just played what, the hit station of Saw Records was. He just played those pop hits.
Yeah.
He was a big fan of The Clash and stuff like that. So are you playing what you enjoy listening to?
Definitely. I mean, the tricky thing is the music that I listen to is majority black people, and I'm not black.
Well, okay, everyone switch over to YouTube right now in case that was confusing.
White guy.
Yeah.
But I love soul R&B music, and obviously the heritage for that is through black musicians. And it's been developed by them. But yeah, that's the music I love. I definitely feel like I'm playing the music that I really enjoy. One of my favorite artists as well, who isn't a black person, but Tom Misch. And a lot of the time people will ask me if that's one of my influences because they feel I sound a lot like him.
Yep.
Which is really cool. I really like that compliment. So feel free to tell me that, everyone.
I like that you're just suddenly planting the seeds. If we're going to do compliments, if it's going to happen, these are the ones on my prescribed list that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, here's one that you can tell me. It doesn't have to be true, but then you got something ready to go, in the sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a little iffy on small talk, hey, how you going? Show was great. You know who you sound like?
This guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny. I also think I don't know if you find this, but the music that you're surrounded by and that you're listening to definitely seems to affect what I'm writing, which seems obvious. But I find on the sunny coast, there's a lot less soul R&B. There's a lot more indie rock, and I feel like that's seeping into my music now. The stuff I've been writing this year has a lot more distorted electric guitar, which I've never ever
played
had.
With, yeah.
Or even because there's so much country getting around at the moment. I've mucked around with a couple of country songs, and just it's definitely osmosis.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's very interesting because I actually noticed that country has been something that I've seen more of, heard more of locally, not locally, and it does numbers. It's very much. I don't wish to denigrate it to a less level, but it's the it thing.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not really sure when it sort of happened, but it just becomes sort of it thing. And I remember chatting to Austin Mackay in that very seat, and he had the same thing. He was writing folky tunes, and his EP is very much angsty rock sort of vibe. And now it's not that, and he's doing tours supporting Brad Cox, and he's doing all these cool things. He's doing country music, but
cool.
But he's much like you with your sort of African American heritage that you don't have. His thing is, I've never owned a farm. I've never worked the land.
Yeah.
I'm a surfy boy from Newcastle. What the fuck do I write country music? And he said the biggest thing it's to write about my life and my experiences. He's like, I'm on the tools, and that I know is common, but that's sort of all I've got right now. So I'll write about that and then influence what my life is like living in Newcastle. And there's no rules or answers to that.
No.
What is your stuff about? Is it about more storytelling of your previous experiences, or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends 100% on the song. I think reflecting on the music I've released recently, the stuff that I'm most proud of is stuff that has a deeper meaning. The songs that you write where you're really getting something off your chest. But yeah, a whole variety of things.
It's been a lot going on. So from when we first came into contact, there's been so much going on for you, which is awesome. But tell me about your relationship with Matt Corby and that how that sort of all kicked off and what you guys have been working on together.
Yeah. So when I decided to give up rugby at the start of last year, I applied for a wild turkey competition, wild turkey Music 101, something like that. And for once I actually got a call back, which never happens. I feel like every musician ever applies from 50 million different things.
Of course.
But yeah, got a call back, got the opportunity to open for Matt at a gig in Newcastle, which was really fun. And then Matt was just an absolute legend. He's like, do you want to come hang at the stud? And I was like, yes, I do. I would love to do that. Can we please write some music together? And then, I wrote a couple tracks, managed to tee up a 4-track EP, which released, almost a month ago now, actually.
I know time flies at this.
It's crazy. This year,
month,
crazy year. But yeah, it was sick. Matt's such a good dude. You know that saying there, never meet your heroes?
Yep.
Wrong.
Oh, I am consistently proven that is not the rule. It's the exception nowadays. amount of people I just enjoy sitting within the chair. Yeah, I don't know many of those.
Yeah,
in my experience,
he's such a good dude, and he's genuinely trying to like help people with music and in life. So I was super stoked to work with him. I'm super proud of the music we made, and yeah, I'm just super lucky that I got to meet him in the first place.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just like that one of those separate serendipitous things where I've had that experience where you really do find out that if you don't ask, the answer's always no, and just have a go. Like you'd got the show, you'd done your thing, you'd put yourself in a good position, and he did offer, but then you didn't go, I'm going to sit there and smile and then wish I'd asked, but it doesn't matter. It's like you went, well, I'm here now. Is this something that we could facilitate?
For sure.
And 9 times out of 10 with these sort of people, they're in that realm of no one ever asked because they wouldn't. Or they probably wouldn't have offered if they weren't interested in that sort of thing in the first place.
Yeah.
So it just takes a little bit of
Extra.
seeing that opportunity and just putting yourself out there a little bit more to put yourself in where you are now.
For sure. I mean, there's definitely lots of pinch me, imposter syndrome moments.
yeah, I can imagine.
Sitting in the studio with Matt Corby. But yeah, I definitely think I'm trying to take every opportunity that's given to me at the moment. And yeah, it's turned out pretty well this year. So
yeah, so as we comment on the year, it's just been zoom. Like, it was crazy looking back at photos. Had the memory come up of the Justice Fair launch that you opened for us very, very nicely, and I was like, how long was that last? Like that was June or July or something. It feels like so long ago.
Crazy.
I normally judge my year based on what John's haircut is, and that was at least 4 haircuts ago.
Oh
so,
my god.
So
he's been to America since then.
He's been to America. We've done all the touring stuff with Jelly Camera as well. It's just been crazy, but. You've done so much this year already. So to give us a rundown on what you've been up to.
Oh my god! I kicked off with the tour in January, and then I released a 3-track EP sort of in the first half of the year. Followed that up with another tour, teed up a couple of backyard shows around the sunny coast, and then I released 2 singles with Matt, followed by another tour, third tour for the year, and then dropped the EP a month ago after a 6-week holiday in Europe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of. I literally had East Coast tour was on my bucket list since I was 18.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't do it because of the rugby. The rugby was the thing that always stopped me.
Yeah, exactly.
And within the last year, I've done 4, if you include a support tour as well. And now I'm like, I don't want to do that for a little while. There's a lot of driving.
Yeah. I've done it. And I suppose the other thing you've done is you've done stuff by yourself. You've done backyard shows and you've done the band rig. So where do you see, like, what do you want your live output to look like next year? Like, and beyond? Like, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think I'm lucky I've been able to work with such awesome musos from like several different states. I say several, I mean like a few. So when I tour in Sydney, I have a different band. In Melbourne, I have a different band. In Brisbane, I have a different band. But now that I'm based up here on the sunny coast, I have put together like a 5-piece band that I feel is really strong with people that I've been playing with for like the last year, that I really want to play some bigger shows with. So my goal for next year is really support slots. Like it's exhausting organizing your own tours, and you know how it is. It's a lot of admin, especially organizing different bands in different states as well. So yeah, the band I put together are all weapon musos that I'm always really excited to play with. So I'm hoping we get the opportunity to play some bigger shows as a 5-piece.
Yeah, and getting that support slot situation happening and getting purposeful things that serve you, that's a whole nother beast of its own.
So tricky.
Has it all just sort of been like one thing from the other, or did you have a bit of a plan of attack that you were aiming towards, or was it just like, well, this is sort of facilitated and this can go? And
it was definitely calculated this year. Like I was working with a company called the Annex, who are like a record label services. They're not a record label. You pay an upfront fee, and they essentially like advise you and help with digital. They're a digital marketing company actually, but the lady who runs it used to be the head of EMI and like.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, in London, so she knows her shit. She knows what she's doing. But yeah, they were great for just helping me like plan out the year. It was very structured, which I think I work well with. I think you would know as a musician, the difficult thing sometimes can just be organizing yourself and figuring out what you're going to do with each day.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped with that, being like, these are the goals I need to achieve. These are the dates for the tours. This is when I should put a tour. This is when I should put a release. So it was good.
Yeah, I suppose that's interesting. Like, I was actually going to ask sort of now that you've got yourself into maybe, I'm assuming, but a bit more of a routine sort of thing, what does a day look like in how you can organize yourself? Because it's very much the case that having an understanding of like 2 weeks out, I need to do this, because then it's bite size. And whether or not you attack it as a full 6 week schedule and you get the whole 6 week schedule and sort of cut it up yourself, or whether you got to guide it on that, it's so much easier and more just have a bite size. This is what week 2 of 5, this needs to be this and this needs to be that. And then you can iterate as you need, but just having a foundation, it's so much easier to work from.
100%. Yeah, I know what you mean. I definitely like bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
It's good to definitely good to plan ahead.
Absolutely. Because the way I see it is now with, from my experience down south to up here, no one really did DIY stuff. So like the amount of times I've seen people that I know really well or have seen just from afar doing the house show thing and doing that sort of stuff, that's like a thing. That's not just like a one-off, like wasn't something to do with the cough. It's absolutely something that's happening and it continues to happen. What is your sort of experience with that, especially in an organizational setting? I've always been sort of wondered, I've never been the one on the admin for that, but like, is it more work, less work? Is it easier, more difficult?
I really tried to lean into it on the easy side to start with. I was like, I'm just going to do a free one. I'm going to set up my PA in the backyard, play acoustic, and like see if anyone shows up, which was great because there's no pressure.
Yeah.
It was just like whoever comes. And the first one was so much fun. And we had such a good backyard for it as well. I've just moved from that house too. So now I'm like, where am I going to do the next one?
True.
But then we did one up in Muso as well, which was really good with Jack Raymond. And that was great because Jack has the same PA that I have.
That's very convenient.
Which was super handy because it meant we could like have a really nice setup. He's also got like a sick digital mixer, and like it was a lot easier than having to like hire my own PA and like another sound guy, and you know there are so many parts that you forget you have to organize when you're doing something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was handy having someone who had the kit and knew what they were doing. It made life a lot easier, and it was such a fun gig as well. It went really well.
Yeah, I think that's such a. I think maybe in my circles, people have ticked it. They've got it. It's in the brain, but a lot of people are still a little iffy on diversifying what delegating what they're not super crash hot on to someone who's super crash hot on it.
Yeah.
Like there are so many advantages to doing things yourself, but like having like you dependence where everyone has to do everything for you, everyone gets stuck in the independence level where it's just, I can manage it all myself. I've done my own booking. I've got everything, I do all this, edit it all myself. And then it's almost like looking down upon the ultimate tier, God tier of interdependence, where it's like, I'm great at the chats, but I'd love someone to edit it, or I'd love someone to film it because I, can do that and spend a little here to take the pressure off somewhere else. And just dealing we're just dealing with other people and other musos, even if it's just things like, hey, well, we're both going to play. It's sort of a bit for love. You do the sound for me, I'll do the sound for you.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things. I think I'd love your thoughts on this interdependence and just your feelings towards that, having played around like I have and stuff, how important that is.
100%. Yeah. I think the saying that always comes to mind is a rising tide brings up all ships, or whatever they say, I think it's super important. I think it's good this year. The Sunny Coast music scene seems to have like picked up a lot. I feel like the Sunny Coast Music Club was a great thing because it just introduced so many people to each other. Yeah. And like sort of built a little bit of a community where people could like meet up and just get that first introduction, even if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm all for helping other people out and also being helped out. I think there's no negatives to that in my head.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't think there should be any competitive nature with music. I think it's art, and like that's what annoys me about the shows, like The Voice and stuff. I'm like, art isn't competitive. It's like, it's art.
Well, and that's the thing. And it's like after chatting Dicko and talking about Australian Idol and stuff, it's like we get the bell ends and we get the cream of the crop prodigies. The ones that are pretty good, that have definitely got a go in them, that are not the best or the worst, we don't even talk to them. So it's like the meat and the sandwich, that's where Music Club and that's where all these other connection points that aren't just going to shows come in. Because yes, there obviously can be some real like legends and stuff playing and being a part of that, but it's about the meat and the sandwich. So we go, oh, we're all, for lack of a better term, we're all in this together sort of thing. We're all playing the same game. And I think you're right. This competition versus community thing is just something that I've noticed has actually gotten even better. When I first started, it felt like loads because I was doing DIY shows. And in 2019, I was like, they've never done this before. Like if there's no venue, there's no show, those sorts of things. No, we'll make it work. Timo's got a PA and Johnny will fix it up. Okay. And that's just crazy. The resourceful nature of like the Sunny Coast and just the resourceful nature of just musos, I think. When we get pushed up against a wall, we tend to figure out a way to move the wall rather than push back. We tend to just figure out a way to work around it. And 100%. I think that's super cool. And I like the idea that everyone is on a level playing field, whether you're playing guitar by yourself or you're doing something by yourself. You stick out like a sore thumb if you go, oh, yeah, they just play fucking covers, or well, he just plays guitar by himself. All right. Yeah. Everyone goes, what are you talking about, man?
Douchebag.
Yeah, literally. You stand out like dog's bollocks because it's like, that's a weird thing to say, man. No one talks like that.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I love that that's where we're at. Like, and as a community, it's cool to see something that I hadn't thought about until it was mentioned to me the other day, the intermingling of genres. And like, I'm curious to hear you talking about intermingling in your own writing, but the intermingling of genres, you'll get someone who is like, I'm ravenous for what you do. How can I figure out where we can play together, even though it's not quite the same, but I want to figure out a way we can do it. I've noticed that that's been something that I've both been introduced to and have also tried to do with certain people. You know, like the amount of time Stallion Space has played with Chamberlain, and we are nothing alike at all. But we just like the hangs and the energy's good. And, and I suppose for you having played now in like sort of 3 or 4 iterations of whatever the Clift experience is, you get an idea of like interpretation of things, different genres and stuff. So what is your, like coming into from solo to band and stuff, what is your sort of idea of success now, like as a muso?
My idea of success as a musician, that's a tricky question. I always have in the back of my mind something that one of my favorite artists said, Alan Stone, is that sustainability is the success, in that I want a career in music. I want sustainability in that I want to do it for a long period of time. It's the goal isn't money, but I would like an income that's sustainable, that I can live off. But yeah, definitely like sustainability is the word that comes to my head when I think of success.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like it's such a good lifestyle on the sunny coast. At the moment, like sustainability looks like playing cover gigs, which is fine. Like I'm fine doing that. I would love to make it all original. That would be amazing. But you know, I'm stoked to be living in a country where I can play music and make enough money to like get by doing that. You know,
absolutely.
It's sick.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. If you enjoy what you play and you enjoy playing, then you can find your way around. And I think that's super important now because it's not as easy to get someone out of bed to come and see you play your own stuff.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
But it makes it all the more special when they do. But there are sort of avenues, and like even for me, I'm trying to see how I can make that more sustainable, and obviously I can't play by myself. Yeah. You know, so there's that. Like I'm requiring other people to want to have me on board. And I think the other part of that sustainability is like you've got the financial sustainability, which is obvious. You got like the asset sustainability, which, you know, you've got stuff that isn't, you know, you're not playing a $10 guitar, you're not struggling to afford strings and those sorts of things. The basic things that keep you going, your car runs, those sorts of things. For sure. And then you've got the human sustainability, and because you're working with great people and you have a positive impact on people, that's where you grow the human sustainability. Yeah, because I love it. That's exactly what I was thinking about when we first talked about doing this after the Sunshine Coast Music Industry Collective like meeting sort of catch up thing at the end of the year, and it was just a who's who of everyone. It's like if they'd had no speakers, I don't think anyone would have even noticed because everyone was just like, chatting. Oh my God, I literally haven't seen you in ages. It was just 2 hours of unstructured networking. Yeah. You know, and it's What has that been like for you, having been in other places, now calling this place home? What has that been like for you to sort of build a network?
Yeah, well, I think I was pleasantly surprised because, the original reason that I moved away from the sunny coast down to Melbourne was because I didn't feel that there was an opportunity on the sunny coast to be a musician, which I don't think is true at all now. And I think that was actually one of the questions I took to Matt, is I was like, how do you find living outside of a major city doing music? And all of his best mates who are doing really well in the music industry live in the northern rivers of New South Wales. You know what I mean? Like they're not in a major city. And now because of social media and technology, you don't need to be in a major city. You definitely still need to travel though to the major cities for the gigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
And that's the compromise.
That's the compromise. That was what I said to myself. I was like, all right, I'm not going to be paying Sydney rent prices next year, but I'm going to spend that money on flights to Sydney to do the networking and to do the gigs in Sydney that I know that I need to do to get the following. But yeah, I was so happy to see so many people at the Sunny Coast Music Club or whatever it was called.
Oh, it's a long acronym. I had to say it slowly so I don't cock it up. So.
Yeah, I'm going to let you do that.
Yeah, so that thing that I recently mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Be delegated to the guy who can't normally speak quite well, so which is the guy running the show, so doesn't bode well.
I love it.
But yeah, no, so that thing that we won't talk about, that we had a great time at.
Yeah. So good. And yeah, and I think it shows what you were saying. There were so many people in there. We didn't need the speakers up there. That shows that we need those awards, baby. Like,
exactly.
The time has come. There's enough of us here. The Gold Coast is doing it. It's awesome that we're going to have the opportunity to be put in front of people with an award and put that on our musical resume. And it's something to talk about, which is, you always want something to talk about in I know your one sheet and
because we just circle back to where I started. Wait, get your credits. What are your credits?
There you go. There's one.
Exactly. So that's the thing. I think, and I think part of what I've noticed has been sort of the push over the last little while. I don't necessarily know what a little while is in days and months, but legitimizing where we live. I think that's a big thing because, as you said, the big guys know that there's not necessarily a requirement to be in the city. But how do we get those that are not sort of in that mindset or that just are trying to get into it and have that expectation that that's what it's going to be and it's just deterring them? How do we explain to them that's not the case? You not only can you make it if you're from here, you can also come, people can come here as a place to play,
For sure.
And I've now seen 3 bands, the latter of which being Standard Atlantic, that are doing, which I'll be going with Aaron, the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast thing, and they're actually not even playing Brisbane because they played Brisbane earlier in the year. Like we went and saw them at Fortitude Music Hall, and now they're doing Sunny Coast and Gold Coast. So they're doing just, not the Gold Coast is like the regions, but like they've decided not to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that a bit. I'm seeing, people doing the northern beaches and people doing like Byron. And I'm like, okay then. Obviously, they put a Sydney show in there because of the geography of the state, but they're each getting their own one now. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, so good. And it's good. We have the music venues that are the right size now. I feel like we could still use one more venue that's like under 100 cap somewhere other than like another one somewhere. I feel like that would be super handy. But yeah, it's sick that we have like the station, KBTs, Soul Bar, obviously, like cool we have all these spots now.
Yeah, and then the precinct somewhere else you can cut your teeth. And also you got, because it's about having somewhere that's keen for you, and it's keen for tunes. And I think the big thing I noticed here is that there's a lot of places that live music places that do food and drink, as opposed to pokies venues that have a stage.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the biggest shift I've noticed, where the intent is that we're meant to be there.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And like, I don't know, like I haven't played a lot in Melbourne in a long time, since outside of just recently with Delacoma and stuff. And it's interesting when you do go back to a certain place that, even if you're well lived and everyone knows you're going to be there, you're going to a place that has a stage, as opposed to going to a place that is designed for you that people can come to and eat. It's such a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And it's the intent, and like we wanted for nothing when we went down to Melbourne. Everyone was just super happy to help with us. And
so good.
So it's just like when you play at Soul Bar and stuff, nothing's too much trouble. And I think that's what the essence of why we do it as well is, like, talking about your pros and cons list without knowing what was on it. You probably wouldn't have even put this stuff on there because it wasn't even on your radar.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially because you're coming from a community and a network that you have. You literally have a team or teams that you have gone, well, this is definitely locked in. I'm now consciously making an effort to step away from this.
Yeah.
And it's like, why the fuck am I doing that? Like, is this worth the risk?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, like, how did you sort of meter your own sort of risk taking with this? Obviously, knowing that you weren't on NRL money, but you were like, well, I could be taking it down to nothing for a bit. You know, how did you sort of meter those risks?
That's a great question. I feel like I just like it was a risk.
I'm still winging it.
Yeah, I'm still winging it, baby. Like, fake it till you make it. No, I knew that I could make a sort of livable income from playing cover gigs. And I'd already played, like, because I had sporadically come back to the sunny coast, and during COVID was such a blessing for me because it sort of forced me back to the sunny coast, and my only income I could make during that time was sort of playing music because I wasn't sure whether or not I'd be back in Melbourne or on the sunny coast.
Of course.
And I was like, oh, if I can play like a couple gigs a week, that's enough money for me to get by. And I can just go from there. And I was like, the lifestyle at the sunny coast is so much better. I really didn't want to go back to the cold of Melbourne without a beach. I was like, I was like, I'll be stoked if I'm living like 10 minutes from the beach and paying my rent and like playing music. That sounds great. Like,
that sounds like such a great, like, step one. Like, that's a great step one. Brilliant foundation. Great place to start.
Yeah, I was like, if that's bottom tier, that's a good lifestyle already, you know. But yeah, and then it was just building on that, I guess. Keep going up from there.
Yeah, exactly. So the record, tell me about it. Tell me about the songs and what it sort of is all about.
Cool. So first song that I took into Matt was a song called How Deep, and I really wanted to take a song in that I felt was strong lyrically, especially because I know Matt is such a great lyric writer. And that song I actually wrote after an accident that happened in Cairns. My partner's from Cairns, and we were up there in 2022, and a girl drowned at a place called the Babinda Boulders, which is notorious. Like, people drown there all the time. Like, I'm talking like 2 or 3 people a year drown there.
Oh, God.
And like, we were the first people at the scene when the girl had fallen into the water, and it was quite traumatic. Like, I don't know if you've ever been through anything like that, but that was the first time I'd dealt with anything like that, which I'm very lucky that I hadn't. But it was pretty confronting. And that song, How Deep, was sort of the first time I'd written a song that was, it was like quite cathartic, I guess, was the way someone described it to me. And I was like, that's a perfect way to describe it, because it really got it off my chest. And yeah, I was really proud of the lyrics. I thought they have a really great double meaning. And so took that in the first day, wrote that with Matt, and we smacked out the whole track in a day. And like, he's got some beautiful piano on there. It's very like haunting but beautiful is the way I would describe it.
Yeah. You can tell that there's a lot behind it and it's heavy, but it's nice to listen to.
Yeah. I think people don't realize unless you know the backstory, you know, you wouldn't know what it's about.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the next day I was like, that was really depressing. Let's write something fun.
Yeah.
So we wrote Sublime, which is just like a feel good.
It is, and it's a feel good tune.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a happy, inviting tune to listen to.
Yeah.
Often gets spun in the office.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we did those 2 tracks over like 2 days, and then I was like, can we please, you know, do another 2? I know, you know, I sort of took in Half Written that was actually about how tricky the music industry is, which Matt really resonates with, because he's had a pretty tricky run with it all. And then Quietly Scrolling was like, I really wanted to write a track that was like an Alan Stone-ish sort of vibe, and he's super gospel, soul. And Matt came up with this sick chord progression that my poor keyboard player could not figure out for ages because he's such a Matt's just such a weapon.
Yeah, and when they just naturally do what feels right.
Yeah,
but you weren't there, so you don't know what the feeling was.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another song that was just like so fun to write. You know how you say like a song will. There are songs that just remind you of specific times in your life.
Yep.
And you have like a really strong memory attached to it.
Really, yep.
It's like it's extra special when that song you wrote, you know, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that quietly scrolling for me is just like pure bliss of like, holy shit, I'm in the studio with Matt Corby and we're writing a gospel dance track, you know?
Yeah.
every time I hear that song, I'm just like, this is so sick.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think that is what keeps, like, if nothing else, it keeps the excitement and enjoyment for you, but it keeps the energy of, yeah, I'm going to go down and play 3 hours of just stuff in my own way.
Yeah.
But I'm going to probably throw that one in there. And it's like, man, I love that. Like, that's electric to me. I love that. And it really does something for you. And because in the grand scheme of things, if you're not loving your music, it's pretty hard to get everyone else on board.
Do you find that? Do you find that you need to like refresh a track or like, I feel like when I'm playing cover gigs, sometimes you're just like going through the motions, you know?
Yeah, well, for a lot of it, I play in some arrangements that are not like I don't play any like band gigs. So I only do trio maximum for like just because of that's who I just work with.
Yeah,
trio maximum, and depending on what you got, sometimes I'm doing vocal, guitar, me. So I'm pulling it back and I'm doing phrasing and things that is not even close to how the record was done. But you know, I've got an R&B trio sort of vibe that. You know, we're doing a bit of Rihanna and stuff like that. It's like when we do if someone calls out, 500 Miles by the Proclaimers, we'll probably say yes.
Yeah.
But it's going to be so different.
So cool.
And like that, and therefore that gives it a bit of something different for me.
Yeah.
Because like playing in Band from the Club and having that like a bit of a ska Latin influence.
Yeah.
We're not just playing the numbers exactly the same. They've all got a little bit of us in them.
So good.
Sometimes a little bit quicker, a little bit more our style. We're playing the guitar solos on the bass, those sorts of things. So you're right, it does make it more interesting.
Yeah.
And like, okay, even just playing by yourself, you can be like, yeah, okay, I can be a bit more fluid and in control of what I feel like here.
Yeah.
And it does make it more enjoyable.
For sure, definitely.
Because that's whether you're playing your own stuff or you're playing other people's stuff. It's about just if they wanted to just have the songs be played, they just use their Apple license to play Spotify.
So true. I feel like you need like a certain level of musicianship to pull that off as well,
Yeah.
I feel like you need to be a good musician to like nail actually doing it a different way.
Absolutely, because knowing the song is definitely the bare minimum.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't properly teach something unless you know it. But often teaching something instills the knowledge in your head. So as you try and riff on something and figure out, is that going to work? Is that the key to solo? You end up getting the song better and improving yourself at the same time. Whereas if you're really just riffing it to like, what's the chords, what's next, you're like rigidly in that block. There's not really anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And it is pretty obvious.
Sure.
It is pretty obvious. So I like that. I like that you're sort of enjoying it. Not sort of, but you are enjoying it for what it is, even as a means to an end, because you think about back to that lifestyle thing again.
Yeah. And I mean, I've definitely got to chuck in a couple new tracks to make it feel fresh as well. I feel like constantly trying to learn new stuff and like, God, I feel like I've played Riptide since I was like 14 years old. That song has been smashed. Valerie, let's go.
Yes. That's so true. But it's interesting when John came over, like not to hear came over from America. So many of the ones that you were just talking about there that were like, oh my God, we're doing that one again. He's like, I've never played that before.
I was actually asking someone about this the other day.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I was like, are popular tracks in the cover scene, is that like a regional thing? Like if you're in California, are they rocking Valerie, or are they like, they've got something else, or they got some Katy Perry? Or I don't know.
Like that's the thing. John, when we went over to the States, we were like, oh, we might have to extend a couple with a few other covers and stuff. It was sort of like throw something out, and like because Rob knows basically every song, that wasn't a big deal. And I can play most things. But Del was like, not really comfy on the lyrics, and then he'd be like, John, have a go at this, and he'd be like, never played it before. And I was just like, it's crazy how we're not meeting in the middle, because like John's in between all of us. You really smack bang in the middle. At 30, he's in between Del and Rob, and then Caleb and I. But so many things seem to have just missed him, whether it's geographical or just because he's earlier in the 90s. They've just missed him. And it was just crazy just to look at the cultural change and be like, oh, he's doing this one and that thing, and he's playing like Imagine and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
never would have thought to have played that, But then like we play Royals in the Justice Trio set, and it goes off because in my experience and in the experience of most people in the front of the audience we're playing to, I've never really heard people cover that.
Yeah.
Like in a band setting. Whereas he's like, oh yeah, that's just something that would happen.
We do, yeah.
And I'm just like, it's cool that we can bring that because these are songs that everyone knows, but it's not necessarily things to think about.
Agreed.
Everyone's played Danny California 14 times.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But yeah, playing like Royals by Lord and doing things like Imagine and stuff like that. No one's really doing those, but it adds something else for us. But it also adds something else for the audience.
For sure.
So it gets a bit more, oh, hang on, I haven't heard that before. It's not backing music anymore. I haven't heard that before.
So good. Yeah, it's finding those songs that work well as like, I find some songs work better acoustically than others as well, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
And I like the thought of like, if a song works really well acoustically, that's the sign of a really good song,
Yeah. If you can strip it back and all the bones are there for everyone to be like, oh yeah, we'll clap along or something, then it's like, yeah, it's got something in there.
It's got some good tune. Yeah, I like that.
So are you playing acoustic, or are you stripping back the clean electric, or are you just playing acoustic guitar for
These
for the cover shows and stuff?
Cover shows are pretty much all acoustic.
Sure, yeah.
I've like tried to push myself a bit more into the electric, which is great. It's funny, my hand was forced a bit there because moving up to Queensland, I didn't realize that humidity in wooden guitars was going to be such a big problem.
Yeah.
But my guitar just got absolutely destroyed by the humidity, like
Interesting.
fully bellied up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it's actually happened again recently. I need to go get it fixed again where the bridge starts to lift.
Interesting.
It's because I didn't have aircon. If you have aircon, it'll dehumidify the room. And like as soon as I mentioned it to someone up here in a music store, they were like, "Oh yeah, you got to buy dehumidifying packs, like, and put them in your guitar cases," which is something I'd never even thought of. Having had, I bought my Maton down in Melbourne where it was made, and like never worried about the humidity there. But yeah, it's like a thing that definitely I will remember now.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I actually had an inverted experience when I was down in Melbourne. I couldn't keep the drums in tune. Could partially be my skill level at the time, but the cymbals and stuff would green out, like the oxidization and the salt. And I wasn't like on the water by any stretch. I wasn't like doing Pacific Boulevard or something in like Warana where I'm literally across the water. I wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
I was like a gentleman's 4.5 minute drive from the water.
Yeah.
And couldn't keep the drum kit in tune.
Wow.
The birch would get sort of like sweaty internally a little bit. And guitar strings had about 20 strums in them. It was moving here.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Actually had no issues. So I have an acoustic guitar and I have a silica gel thing, one of the silica gel guys.
Yeah.
In the case and stuff, just as much for vanity as it is for actual application. I assume it's doing something. It's one of those things you just put one of those in there. That'll work, doesn't it?
It'll be fine.
But like this guy, like the mesh heads and stuff, they don't get moldy or anything. There's no issues there.
Good.
I don't have any issues with the rubber and anything like that. And the drums stay perfectly in tune here.
I love it.
And like the maple, maybe it's maple. Like what's your guitar out of?
I actually don't know, if I'm honest. It's like a little Dreadnought Maiden 808.
Okay.
It's a very light wood. It's not a heavy guitar,
Okay.
It's done a lot of work in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think the next acoustic guitar I invest in will be like a gloss coated, heavy body, like just something that will cope with the humidity here a bit better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like goes back to like that second leg of the sustainability. It's like the asset sustainability. I can't have something that's not like equipped for my environment.
For sure.
Because that's absolutely half the battle.
Oh my God. And music hit's just so fun, but so expensive.
Well, that's the thing. Hey, it's it's like, how do you sort of meet in the middle where you're like, okay, well, where I'm at right now, I can get by, but the next level for me is better than get by. I want to have the next upgrade. I want to have the next thing.
Yeah.
So like you've got your depending on what it looks like now, your home studio setup that you're sort of resetting up in the new place.
Mm-hmm.
What What are you trying to do your own stuff in there?
Yeah.
Like properly?
That's like one of my goals for the next year that, again, Matt has definitely inspired. Like he does a lot of his own production. And I think we're pretty lucky now that, we have access to Logic and YouTube. Like that is a super powerful tool.
Yeah.
It's super attainable. It's like $300 or something.
Yeah. And also, as much as, there's some if buts and maybes about Apple as a company, it's a one-off. It's one of the last one-offs. You buy Final Cut Pro and Logic once.
Yeah.
And no one does it anymore. Everything is subscription-based.
So true. I'd never thought of that. They don't lock you in.
They've never changed it. It's always been a one-time purchase. Like I bought this back when I was in like year 10.
Yeah.
And it's never cost more. It has unlimited updates, just an app from the App Store,
So
So
good.
you can get in at the like entry level and stuff like that, and you can get started.
Buy now before it goes subscription-based.
Yeah, I have such a large range in audience here that they could change. They could change it right off the bat.
Oh, shit.
But no, it's true though. It's true. So you can get started.
Exactly. And I think like it's fun recording yourself. And like I think I have definitely found in the last sort of 6 months that it's fun to have full control of the production process. I've previously I love working with producers because I think that that's like one of the best skills in music is being a producer, because a lot of them are like multi-instrumentalists, and there's also a lot of like you have to be a really good people person to be a producer. Like you got to like stroke people's ego, but also like manipulate where the direction of a song's going to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and just reading the room, understanding social cues. Like some people are going to be like, "That's fucked," and they'll be fine with that, and that is fine. They're like, "Sweet, thanks for letting me know. I didn't waste
Next
my time."
one. Yeah.
And other people, they don't do well with that. They don't do well with tough love. They need to actually say stroked. And here's the 5 things that you're doing great.
Yeah. One thing.
One thing I'd love to change though is the song.
Yeah.
Just
that chord progression. Yeah, let's get rid of that.
Yeah,
that
like
thing.
hat's great, shirt great, guitar awesome, song less good.
Oh,
but
God.
it's true though. It's interesting that you've done the inversion where you've done like show me what it means to be my idea, and then you assisting me with finding out where it needs to go. And then a lot of other people have started here.
Yeah.
And gone, I'm actually really sick of this. I'm sick of getting up and down, and I'd like to, and I was in this case. So for me to get into a room and stuff with people that are happy to do it for me.
Yeah.
Like even just doing when we did the Justice Trio record, obviously I did all of it, but I didn't
So
press
cool.
the recording button.
Nah.
I played drums and John set up the takes, and even just that small amount of me not having to actually do the thing and get back to normal, which take am I on, it made me more keen to do more takes.
So good.
Because I'm like, okay, that's done. I cocked that up, start again. And then I'm just in the moment to play the drums.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've got one hand metaphorically on the keyboard, one hand on the drum kit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to understand that balance of like, don't half-ass it just because you're doing it. I can't bother. Well,
So
then take a break.
Do you find that having someone else in the room makes you do more takes or less takes? Do you know what I mean? Like I find with my vocals especially, if someone else is in the room, I'll be like, I'm not super happy with that take, but I'm just going to go with it anyway. I'm not going to say anything. Whereas if I'm on my own, I'll do that take like 100 times until I get it perfect. Interesting
you say that. So for me, playing my chosen instrument at home, I am actually more I'm more conservative just because it's loud.
Yeah.
So So I'm more conservative. So when I play, I do the pre-work, and I'll be on the F note for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that like might get through on the record, the Justice Trio record. I did in one take.
Oh
I
my
just knew
God.
the song so well that there was no. I was like, I could play it again, but I'm not going to add anything that's going to probably be different or wow anyone.
Yeah.
So I just left it there.
So good.
So it's like that sort of thing for me is I'm actually striving towards more with other people, because I'm like, well, I'm already here. You've already set it up. Whereas at home, it's always set up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just come back tomorrow if I need to. Whereas I feel like, you guys are all sitting here. I may as well make the time worth it. So let's just do a couple more.
So good.
So I actually find it's the opposite.
Interesting.
But then when it comes to like doing vocals, like you do a BV part and I'll just listen back to it and I was like, that needs something else that I can sing. And then I'll just do that 4 or 5 times, 6, 7 times, whatever, at like 8 o'clock at night, just to just to get it done. And that's where you find that you record those parts that are just pretty average by themselves, but they are what's missing.
Yeah.
The amount of like like sort of real sibilance cut out, top end cut out, like it's like it just fills that spot. It's not actually a note, but it's very much a backing vocal note where it sounds rubbish by itself. And that sort of stuff, I'd be like, if we're all in a room together and you're like, oh, any other vocal parts? I'm like, no, well, you go home, mate. It's all good. And then I'll just do that and just go, yeah, just because it's like, there's no point you sitting there.
Yeah.
There's no point you sitting there for that. I can just cover that one. That's not a problem.
Yeah, like slightly uncomfortable sitting in the room while you're just like making weird nasal. What's the sound I'm looking for?
Yeah. Could you go away, please? I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Please fuck off.
But but I've had to get better at the drums thing because for a while there, I felt really nervous. The people closest to me were the ones I felt the most nervous in front of. So I've actually had to get better at that and improve on my confidence that like when I had like I've done stuff with Whistle, with Josiah, and we are playing next to each other and we live track it and he plays the bass and I play the drums and suddenly it's like, oh, I'm playing a live show. But to start with, I used to get real nervous.
Yeah.
Because it was the only time I got like that red light fever. Because I was like, oh, someone's here now.
Yeah. I definitely get the red light fever.
Yeah.
It's funny.
By yourself or just all
both? Yeah. Like, yeah, definitely on my own. You're like, yeah, this is feeling really good. And then the red light goes on. It's like, that is not what I was doing
Sorry,
before.
I actually have just forgotten how to play the songs.
Yes, I am not a musician.
I just forgot how to write that song. Which dickhead wrote that? Shit, it was me. It was definitely me. It was my song. I wrote it.
So funny. But yeah, I'm super keen next year. Like, I want to give the production a bit more of a red hot go.
Yeah, okay. So what does next year look like? Is it lots of songs and then a bit of shows to support it?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't done my New Year's resolution planning phase yet. I'm like having, because it's been such a big year, I sort of said to myself, up until January the 1st, I'm going to tone down. I've got some cover gigs. I'm just going to let myself relax into this new house and then make a full plan. But it'll definitely be, start producing some of my own stuff. I'll definitely get someone else to mix it because I'm not capable of that. And then working with as many other musicians as I can. I definitely want to collaborate a bit more on some releases with some upcoming musicians because I think that's a good way to get like promotion from lots of different people.
Absolutely.
I've got some weapon musos that I know that are keen to do that. So
Sweet,
should be good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that whole process, you're enjoying the process itself. So spending some time and going this year, that's what I'm going to do. Because like for me, I like to do each year, I like to do sort of personal, creative, professional, and miscellaneous goals.
Love it.
So like everything from I was determined to have, a certain amount of money in my savings all the way to this many YouTube subscribers I'd like to have. And It's like certain things are more important than others, but I think it's important to you put them in those blocks because then you understand what they are. You don't go, oh, I want to make sure I upgrade my car. I want to have 100 YouTube subscribers. And you don't look at them as the same thing and go, I only nailed one of those. It's like, no, you need to put them where they belong. And
Agreed.
They belong in different areas.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as you're doing that, I think just having the mindset that you're going to work on your own plan for the year.
Yeah.
Because I looked back at mine the other night with Aaron and we've iterated a lot. Lots of things have changed. And like looking at savings and stuff. And then we had all these things happen with our kitchen downstairs. I was like, well, if we had none of those expenses, we'd actually be $1,000 in front.
Yeah.
So it's like, so we did tick off the thing-ish.
Yeah.
But then we had all these other things we didn't expect.
Happens. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's about like you need to be able to have those life goals and those bigger picture things so you can then be like, okay, this is the direction I want to go in. But then be like, okay, got to be 3 acts I want to work with. I want to utilize someone who's better at something than me, like you're saying. I want to get it mixed because I'm not going to muck about. Like my mastering is not a strong suit for me. It's something. It's one of those things that I'm sure there's lots of things you know how to do that you're not great at. You obviously you know the process, but it's not something.
Don't ask me to EQ.
Yeah, you understand what an EQ is. You understand the principle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're on it.
Exactly.
Mastering that for me. So I said to John, use your guy in Milwaukee because you trust him, and then someone else has to listen to it.
Yeah, it's always good to have a second set of ears.
Exactly. So it's like someone has to listen to it. I won't be too proud if he says, man, the bass drum's gone, put it back in, that sort of stuff. I won't be too proud. And then also I do have the connection of knowing that it's going to be loud enough. There's little things like that. That's serious. That's what takes it to being a demo or a professional track when you listen to it online.
Yeah.
So having like, I want to get to the process of getting an understanding of how to get myself a sound, best way to record stuff, learning on the fly, working with other people, and then the really big bits, I'm going to reach out to the people I have in my circle, and I'm going to get it professionally mixed, professionally mastered. So it's the business.
Looking schmick. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
the goal. I
Exactly.
like it.
So big 2025 for you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I'll definitely try my hardest to make it a big 2025.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any grand plans to go anywhere brand new, or you're happy to do hit those other spots in Victoria and New South Wales again? And
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely tour again next year. I obviously haven't started looking into that. I'm thinking about actually doing like a solo tour, because I've never done just like, I'm just going to solo tour on my own in my van. So many of the folk guys do it, and it's just like, that's so appealing to me, because you're not like relying on anyone else to do it. Usually you can swing a like cover gig and make it an original gig.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
like,
you can feel those sorts of things. Yeah.
Like I'll on a tour, I'll play a set at Rails in Byron, which I love. They do live music like 7 days a week, and I can play a 3-hour set in Byron, actually make money instead of burning through cash from a like band gig where I've got to pay a 5-piece band. And I can still play a few originals and put it on a poster and have it as something to talk about. I feel like in this development stage, touring is almost like, part of it is just having something to talk about within the music industry, so that when you have a radio interview, like it was awkward. I had an interview with ABC the other day, and the guy was like, "So what shows have you got coming up?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't planned any shows for the rest of the year. I just wanted to chill out."
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the solo acoustic gig would be a fun way to do that, and just do like a shit ton of dates.
Yep. Just about having a bat. Just about being like, I'm having a hit. I'm out in there doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this guy is doing it. Like he's playing some numbers. He's doing some shows.
Exactly. You know? I saw Bobby Alu.
Oh, yeah.
How he did the like breakfast tour thing with the breakfast shirts guy. I thought that was such a smart idea. Also, any gig where I'm getting free coffee instead of free beer, sign me up. That's like...
yeah. That's very true. I'm a coffee man also.
Yeah.
I'm a coffee man over the beverages for sure. But I definitely resonate with what you're saying. It's not as cut and dry as... You have to be playing 10 shows to lose money in major cities. Otherwise, it's not a tour.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you don't have those things. Like even just Caleb and I on the weekend, just driving down around Melbourne and stuff, because I had not a bloody B-dub, the big one. A TIG1. I had one of those, and I had literally every bit of gear in there except for like Rob's guitars.
Impressive that you got all the drums in there as well.
Oh yeah, that's
killing it.
Oh mate, after the US tour, mate, we managed to figure out how we could do stuff in cars. Like there were no windows on the car. I couldn't see any out of anything, but it was schmick.
It was in there,
and therefore it was just me and him. So it's like we can't wait for anyone else. And they were just fucking about all this or merch and I was like, pizza, you know. And then like as much as not just me, it was like we've got ourselves to please, because it's not like anyone's gonna be waiting for us. We can't fit anyone else, so we just did stuff. We're gonna get some drinks, you know. So it just meant that we could be more in control. So I could only imagine it's the same thing when you're by yourself, you're on the road, you can just be in control of yourself and just sorting out what you need. You're like, oh, you know, I think I might actually drive for another hour after this show because I've got a bit of adrenaline. And then I'll just stop when I feel like it.
Yeah. And I was the last tour I did, I took my drummer from Brisbane with me down to Sydney, which was really fun. And he's like a legend. I love hanging out with him. But the poor guy was stuck in a car with me for 10 hours because I fully lost my voice and I couldn't talk. Like, if it's just me, I'll just pull up in my van and sleep wherever. Like,
yeah, of course.
I don't care.
You have the flexibility, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I'll go and buy a whole roast chicken and just eat roast chicken.
I'm hearing you. Like, I still haven't found a problem with any of this.
But like, if it's me by myself touring, then it's, you know, I'm happy, like you said, just to drive for like a full day and like stop once. Whereas if you've got someone else, it's like, oh, I kind of feel obliged to stop and we'll actually get some proper lunch and, you know.
Yeah, it's not just full roast chickens and just stuff in your face. Yeah, no. Well, I was gonna say I would still be open to that if you wanted to share a roast chicken any point. I would still be fine with just buying a Woolies chalk.
You and me, bare hands in the chicken.
That's the way to bond with your drummer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, that's true. Though, doing that with Caleb was the same sort of thing. We were just driving through and it was just like, oh, do you want to stop here? And like, nah, okay, we'll just keep going.
So
like,
good. Yeah.
And those sort of things. And we also did it so that we had time and we did things smart. Like, as I was saying to you before, we stayed in Bass after playing in Tarwin Lower.
Yeah.
Not because we couldn't get somewhere close, but because staying 45 minutes closer to the next show while we were buzzing, it wasn't a hard drive, that 45 minutes. We just come off stage. It was not a problem at all.
Yeah.
We were still in that post gig mode.
There's no
so
way
it was
you're
fine.
sleeping anyway.
Exactly. So we just were like, okay, on to the next.
Yeah.
And then you crash when you properly stop. And okay, sweet. Now we can sort of resort ourselves and then not have to rush the next day. Because that's the thing that you get with being in control of yourself. You're like, I think it's best for future Will if I drive a little bit more, or I stop here, or I do those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And you can be more in control of the stuff. And you can book dates that are more realistic for your means. It's like, look, I probably could do 4 in a row, but should I do 4 in a row?
Yeah,
You know,
so true.
Especially when you're talking about losing your voice.
Yeah, I mean, I just got horrendously sick. It was not very fun, and I haven't had that where I've had a show and I've lost my voice.
Yeah,
And I was like, what do I do here? I was like looking up the steamers and like, anyway, I got through it. It was all good in the end.
yeah, well, literally the weekend we just had, I was getting the drum kit from my very good pals at Chaos Drums, and as Josh and I were putting the kit together, they had a loose wing nut, and I just put my hand under it, put loose wing in, and just crushed my finger.
No.
So my hand's still crushed all the
Oh my
way. It's
God.
black all the way through. It's now not as black as it was before, but it
Yeah.
was black all the way through the entire finger. As I was loading the car in on the first day.
Stitch up.
And I was
was
like-
it all right? Could you play all good?
Well, what I ended up doing is I got those Band-Aids that are like a fucking towel.
Yeah.
I got a real good one. Did like just like 3 or 4 goes on me. And just out of sheer thickness on top of the swelling, I just couldn't really feel it.
Yeah.
But like it still feels like my skin's not strong. Like it still feels really tight to do these ones.
Yeah. You
But
can see
just-
it actually. It's so bruised.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's-
God.
It's like, oh yeah, but then you look how pale and white I am, and you go, oh no, that's actually that's not. Bailey didn't get 1 finger of suntan.
That's hilarious.
So there's those sorts of things, and you go, okay, well that's happened. What do I do about it?
Show goes on, baby.
Show goes on.
That's showbiz.
Exactly. But yeah, I think a lot of people are forgetting the business. Okay. So yeah, I just had to do that. And you just riff it. You just have to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for sitting down with me. Thanks for having a buddy chat about all things Woolies, Chooks, and also a bit of music as well.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm keen to see what 2025 looks like for you.
Likewise. I'm
because
sure we'll play some gigs together. It'll be
I'm
good
sure
fun.
we will because with your band set and stuff like that, it'd be very nice to do something, to link up and do some stuff with the trio and things.
Definitely.
That would be very much a good idea. But tell lovely people where they can find you.
Oh yeah, all the good places: Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, at Clift Music, or just if you're looking on good old Spotify, Clift Music, and yeah.
Awesome.
Or just Clift, I should say.
Yeah. That's right. I'll put it up. You don't have to actually remember. He's got no idea.
It's true.
Yeah, you don't want to listen to him. He doesn't know anything.
This guy got no idea.
Yeah. I think he started thinking about Woolies, Chooks, and we just lost it. You just went somewhere else.
My head's just thinking about chickens.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the Woolies Chook.
Nothing wrong with the Woolies,
That's the
Chooks.
best thing.
Well, that's another episode of the Ask Me So podcast. Beautiful to have Mr. Will Clift beside me, and a very big 2025 ahead for the great man. So YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, they're all the places you can see this. You know all the places you can find him. And as always, guys, until next time, I'll see you later.